Anna Sawar called the Prime Minister. It was a very difficult conversation at about 1:30 and told him, look, I'm going to do a press conference at 2:30 and say you should go. And in that hour, they basically seem to have kind of scrambled to assemble in the cabinet, I think it was in the cabinet office room itself, the main room, and done a kind of war scenario, got everyone to do this wave of supportive tweets, and they feel they won the day. And I think they're right in that. They did win the day. Nothing further happened. Wes Streeting, they feel, is back in his box or his place. But I think there is the irreducible problem remains that Keir Starmer is incredibly unpopular.
We have enjoyed the family WhatsApp group this morning. We're all being
as we always do.
Yeah, we're being frank with one another, but that's okay. This is a safe space. Is it a safe space at the minute for Keir Starmer? Is an appallingly bad segue, which I'm going to go for anyway. He's currently holding a cabinet meeting. Will it be a cheery affair? Let's ask the political editor of the Times, Steve Swinford. Morning, Steve.
Good morning.
We'll be told it's a triumphant affair, just as we were told the PLP last night was a massive triumph. At the very least, though, we can conclude that any of the movement against Keir Starmer is being held in check, and presumably that's because of by-elections and then local and regional elections.
Yeah, I think, look, in number 10 this morning, they're feeling very pleased with themselves. They feel that they've seen off an attempt to remove it. They believe it was an orchestrated coup. There's this claim that the Scottish Labour leader, Anna Sawar, was acting in cahoots with Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, who has categorically denied that. But either way, they had about an hour's notice yesterday. Anna Sawar called the Prime Minister. It was a very difficult conversation at about 1:30 and told him, look, I'm going to do a press conference at 2:30 and say you should go. And in that hour, they basically seem to have kind of scrambled to assemble in the cabinet, I think it was in the cabinet office room itself, the main room, and done a kind of war scenario, got everyone to do this wave of supportive tweets, and they feel they won the day. And I think they're right in that. They did win the day. Nothing further happened. Wes Streeting, they feel, is back in his box or his place. But I think there is the irreducible problem remains that Keir Starmer is incredibly unpopular, of record unpopularity, and that Labour is facing disaster at both the by-election later this month and the local election. So it feels like it is more kind of a battle deferred rather than a battle won in the long term.
And he says he's never had a battle he's not won, which as a heuristic statement I think is almost David Brentian.
It's also untrue. I mean, he didn't win Brexit and he didn't win the second referendum, and there are loads of battles that Keir Starmer has lost. So, but look, it was the right speech for that audience last night, and there's nothing to kind of galvanise loyalty like someone coming for you and going against you in those moments. And look, number 10 was yesterday trying to suggest that this was all a kind of media confection, something that we'd brewed up, and actually it was all perfectly fine. This morning, Ed Miliband was saying that he'd been looking over the precipice, and it was a moment of danger. And what's interesting, I think, about listening to Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary and former Labour leader this morning, is he is essentially saying that we need to push left. We need to move this party to the left. He was using and invoking the terms of class, which is not something I've heard Keir Starmer do that much. He said that Keir Starmer's purpose is to break down the class barriers, to stop the country being kind of ruled by the wealthy. And it was proper old Milibandism from, it took me back to when I first started in lobby in 2013. It felt very familiar to that. So I think one of the end products of this is that there will be a probably much more left-wing approach to the Labour Party and Labour politics. When you look at Morgan McSweeney no longer in the frame, a lot of the remnants of the Blairites are now gone, and you've got people like Ed Miliband who've been put out on the morning round this morning to say tack left, essentially.
And the other argument that strikes me we're hearing a lot today, and we've heard it from various people, is that stability is better even than ongoing poor performance. It's better, even it doesn't matter if you think Keir Starmer's useless, stability is kind of a thing to be valued in and of itself.
You can't have stability with poor performance. The poor performance brings with it revolts from MPs, it brings with it brutal by-election losses, and it has real consequences. So the instability will continue, but and he has a breathing space, I would have thought, till the 26th of February, and has all the cabinet behind him. But the other thing is just look at Wes. We all need to talk about and look at Wes Streeting in more detail, because for him to go on the record yesterday and accused Number 10 of briefing against him, of these fabricated claims, as he put it, that he was operating with Anasawa to try to bring down the Prime Minister. Feelings are pretty strong, and that is going to run and run, I would have thought. So we'll just keep where we're going. He also unilaterally released all of his WhatsApp messages with Lord Mandelson yesterday, the disgraced peer. Now, he did that himself. He didn't ask Number 10 to do that. And I can tell you that, as The Sun is reporting this morning, the Cabinet Office has sent a missive round to the entire Cabinet saying, please don't do that. We need to operate within the proper process. So ministers have been told they can't do a Wes and get out their kind of dirty laundry before the moment. Well, because I think they want to control that process. It's one of these central Cabinet Office things. But if you're a minister who's worried about it, and certainly worried about the impact it might have on your leadership credentials, you may think twice about that.
And also, it kind of worked for him, didn't it? Because in some ways he's got it out there. The messages contained therein weren't the worst messages for him, apart from his coziness with Mandelson. But he got a pop in at Rachel Reeves, he got a pop in at Keir Starmer, he got a pop in at the State of Israel, which he accused of war crimes, which would be played very well in his constituency. It felt like he achieved quite a lot of politics by doing it.
Yeah, and a lot of it is things he said publicly. He has publicly said he is frustrated by what's happened in Labour. He's concerned about the direction of the party. I mean, the pop at Rachel Reeves was a bit further than we've seen him say publicly, but everything else was pretty in line with the kind of things he said on the broadcast rounds and the show. So I guess one of the questions is that all the messages? I think it is some of the messages. Were there more to come out? But he certainly feels that he is... and look, we should also go back to the reason why he did that. The reason he did that he published all these messages, is because, as we revealed at the weekend, Angela Rayner allies were going around saying this is going to ruin him, it's going to destroy him. And we had some very angry calls across the weekend about that from Team Streeting, who were furious about it. So this has been precipitated by this jostling and jockeying for position for who should succeed Keir Starmer, and that is still going on.
Yeah, it's not going to go away, and I really enjoy your reporting on it, Steve. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Steve Swinford, there, political editor of The Times. The problem also, Kate, is if Wes Streeting is getting involved in a spat with Angela Rayner, he's not being health secretary. Yeah, I do think there is an opportunity cost in all of this, and everyone blamed the media. The media's confected this. There was no problem here before the media started reporting it. It's just palpably, manifestly untrue.
Well, you can feel aggrieved at the fact that you listen to this sort of line of conversation, and it's frustrating. I think a lot of people feel really deeply frustrated to be here again, actually, and I think that's a really legitimate thing to feel, that the country was sold on a vision by a Labour government, which was a promise to tread more lightly on your life and also to end the psychodrama. That was basically the sell. And
grown-ups in the room, wasn't it?
Grown-ups in the room, but also alongside the idea that, look, we get it, we've spent the time, we've done the work, we know where we're going. I think people are very within their rights to feel deeply, deeply frustrated about where we are now. I mean, I would say that I think it's probably misplaced to suggest that it's a confection. It isn't. What is going on in Westminster is really drastic for the Labour Party. Whichever way you look at it, it's the Labour backbench MPs wrestling power. As Steve was saying there, Ed Miliband's talking about class. This is the traditional divide in Labour. It's the left v the right, the pragmatists, the Morgan McSweeneys, that we just need to win an election, we just need to get over this line.
Win from the centre.
Yeah, versus but what about traditional Labour values? Yeah. What about who we're really here to serve? I think the problem for Labour is the question of who we are really here to serve. It doesn't really stack up anymore, because the party's support base is not in the same place as it once was, even though the party's membership and MPs probably still are, and that's what the wrestle has been. I think the winning of the election was such a euphoric moment that people almost could park that for the time being, and now they can't park it anymore, because they're seeing a government, this is Labour MPs and Labour members, that they don't feel represents them, and they're having to sell that, and that's really difficult. Whether Keir Starmer can survive for 2 weeks, 3 months, 2 years, he'll still have the same problem, which is he has a divided party in Westminster now. He has a lot of very tricky issues to try and get through. And as we were hearing today from Ben Clatworthy, Times Whitehall editor, very, very hard job ahead of him, whatever happens with the politics.
And just one final note on that. If he wanted to, for example, restrict the welfare state because the country wants it and we have to do it because we can't afford not to do it, he's going to struggle with that, because that part of the party doesn't want him to do it.
Well, and, that's before we even get to social care, assisted dying, the SEND provision in the country, councils who are hiking council tax. All of those things are going on at the same time as this massive political row. And we come back to, can a distracted government really get its act together? We will see in the coming days and weeks. We know we're going to hear, by the way, from Andy Burnham. He's going to give a speech today. Different speech. It's not related to leadership, but we understand he will give his views on Keir Starmer. That'll be around 12:30. The Cabinet are meeting pretty much now. That's as usual on a Tuesday, so we'll get a readout of that during Hugo Rifkin's show. And, of course, tomorrow we'll be looking ahead to Prime Minister's questions. Again, a difficult moment, I think, for the Prime Minister to try and handle.